You have questions. I have answers. You've come to the right place. It is mailbag time here on Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. And you may be wondering, how do I get involved in the mailbags? Well, here's what you do. You got to be subscribed and turn on your notifications so you can know when we go live and do these mailbag shows. We do them each and every week here on the channel. But I need you to subscribe so you never miss a moment of all the latest happenings with your favorite team and answer your questions live on our mailbag show. So let's begin our first question with the hashtag Seahawks from ONR. Should the Seahawks draft a quarterback next year? If not, what position? I feel like I get this question about every week, and I will say the same answer that I have said about every week. The Seahawks, when it comes to next year and drafting a quarterback, yes, they should draft a quarterback if there is somebody that they fall in love with, that they like. The Seahawks are in a similar position that the Kansas City Chiefs were in a couple years ago when they had Alex Smith, and Alex Smith was good. And then they saw Patrick Mahomes out there. They scouted him. They loved him, and they drafted Mahomes, but they still let him sit under Alex Smith for a year, then handed things over to Patrick Mahomes, and the rest is history. For the Seahawks, in their case, you have a situation where Geno Smith is good enough, and he's doing a really good job, but obviously he's not going to be your long-term solution. And so with that, you play Geno, and if there's a quarterback you like in next year's draft, whether it's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, one of those guys, or maybe somebody else, then you draft them, let them sit behind Geno Smith until they're ready to go. If there isn't, if you looked at this draft and say, this doesn't feel like the right year, then you wait till next year. But, yes, they should draft a quarterback. I would think it's going to happen, but we'll see who it is. Book writes, with Tre Brown coming back, how big a difference does he make? Well, Tre Brown looks really good when he played last year as a rookie. And you add him to a cornerback room that includes Mike Jackson, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, and Sidney Jones just got cut, but we heard from Pete Carroll that he said that, hey, Sidney Jones they felt like could have been a starter, that he was good enough to start for them. That tells me they like Tre Brown more, that they feel pretty good about Tre Brown. I don't think, after Tariq Woolen, I don't think that there's a whole lot of separation between that cornerback room, that this group has turned into a really solid group and an inexpensive group, quite frankly. So, Tre Brown, I think he could make a solid difference. We'll see. He's going to have to earn his playing time, though, to get on that field with a very loaded room at this point. Next question comes from Clicked. Why were the Seahawks unable to trade Sidney Jones? Well, there's really only one factor involved in why they weren't able to. I think a lot of teams were interested in the idea of Sidney Jones, but with knowing that the Seahawks were going to get rid of him no matter what, with the reports that came out that Seattle was going to release him if they couldn't trade him, I think teams pretty much caught on and said to themselves, look, why would we waste giving up draft capital, giving up something for Sidney Jones when we can just wait until he's released and sign him and it's cheaper and we don't have to lose anything out of it? I think everybody kind of caught on. If the Seahawks would have made a deal even a few weeks ago, they could have gotten something for him, but it was a timing issue. They kind of waited too long to move on from Sidney Jones, where his trade value was essentially down to nothing. So that's what I'm talking about here, is that with Sidney Jones, talented player, but there was just no trade market for him as far as I'm concerned. So are you surprised the Seahawks couldn't trade Sidney Jones, that a deal did not go down when the Seahawks were clearly shopping him? You surprised that didn't work? If you are, type Y for yes. If not, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section below if you were surprised the Seahawks couldn't trade Sidney Jones. Another question comes in from Chris, hashtag Seahawks. Do you think we will re-sign Geno before the season ends? And if so, what do you think it will look like? I don't know if a deal gets done, let's say, before the season, but I do think that Geno gets a new deal of some sorts. I would guess that it's going to be a 2-year deal with a team option for the year following. I don't think it's going to be a long-term contract, but I do think he is going to be back next year. And whether he's getting the next quarterback ready, that he's playing the mentor role of some sorts, Geno Smith is going to be on this roster next year one way or the other and be the starter. I'd be shocked if he's not the starter next year. But beyond a 2-year deal, that seems like a reach at this point. They're going to need to see another year like this year if he's going to be around for a really long time, as far as I'm concerned. But, yes, that's what I'd look at. Probably about a 2-year deal for Geno Smith on that front. Today's show is presented by Established Titles, the newest partner here at Chat Sports. You may be wondering, what is Established Titles? Well, it is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. It is a project based on a historical Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. Title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Scotland and an official certificate with a crest. They plant every tree, and they also work with charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. You can officially have the title of Lord or Lady added to your credit card or plane tickets, dating profiles. Makes for a great last-minute gift. You see, I already got mine. I'm already officially Lord Tyler Jones. And here's the deal. Here's what we're going to offer. You can join me, and we can have our own Seahawks Today Kingdom. We can all take over Scotland together as one unit here on Seahawks Today. If you go to establishedtitles.com/chat, the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will be within walking distance to my plot. And we can own the country of Scotland together, and you can save an extra 10% right in time for the holiday season. Get yours today. Makes for a great gift. Your dad, your uncle, your grandma, they're going to love it being a landowner in Scotland and have that title of laird or lord and adding that to their dating profiles. EstablishedTitles.com/chat to get yours today. Next question from Ashley. Ashley wants to know, #Seahawks. If we made it to the Super Bowl, which team from the AFL do you think we would be facing, and do you think we could win? AFL, I like the throwback there. That's the proper way to say the AFC, right? So I think the Bills are the odds-on favorite, not only to get to the Super Bowl of the AFC, but they're still by far the favorites to win the whole dang thing. Even with the way the Eagles have been playing, the guys out west still are betting on the Bills to be that team. Behind them, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And after the Bills and after the Chiefs, there's a significant gap, I think, in the AFC of who that next team could be. So if the Seahawks were to go on a run and get all the way to the Super Bowl, my money would be that they'd be facing either Buffalo or Kansas City as far as I'm concerned. But first, you got to go through the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles have been playing great football this year. Jalen Hurts has done a tremendous job. That's step number one. Before we even talk about Super Bowl and everything with that, this team still needs to get through the NFC and get through Philadelphia. That's a tall task. Next question. Most wild signing the Seahawks could make. Immediate impact player. Well, two names in particular. And we talked about these guys earlier in the week. OBJ, Ndamukong Suh. Both of them are big names, obviously. Both of them are Super Bowl champions with a lot of pedigree. I would be very intrigued to see if Seattle would be able to pull that off. Now, they're kind of limited cap space-wise, a little less than $4 million, so they had to move around some things. But those guys, I think, if you brought them in, if you found the money for it, could be instant impact players for this Seattle Seahawks team. Alvin writes, what are the Seahawks' playoff chances at this point? I think they're pretty good. I mean, you look at how weak the NFC is. Let's just put some simple numbers out there for you. I think the number 7 playoff spot in the NFC, in the wild card, is probably gets in with 9 wins. Okay? The Seahawks are already at 5-3. So beyond just the division race, just trying to get a wild card spot, can Seattle win 4 more games? Yeah, they should. And the schedule, you got the Chiefs, and you got another matchup with the Niners. But other than that, it plays pretty good to your favor. So the Seahawks, their playoff chances, what seemed like very slim entering 2022, have now turned into where their odds are better of making it than not making it at this point. So quite the turnaround for this Seahawks team. I would think their chances are pretty good, at the very least, of grabbing a wild card spot, if not winning the division at this point. What's your confidence level in Seattle to make the playoffs? Scale it for me 1 through 10. Shout out Jim Mora. Playoffs. Let me know in the comments section. 1 through 10, the chances for Seattle to make the playoffs. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Wayne writes in, hashtag Seahawks, with the Cardinals' pass defense in the top 10, how many rushing yards do you see from Walker? Kenneth Walker had a big game the first time around when he played the Arizona Cardinals. And this past week, his numbers were a little bit down, but ultimately the Seahawks still won by double digits, so it's okay. I think the Seahawks have to run the football well. I expect them to do so. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 100-yard rushing day for Kenneth Walker. I think he's capable of doing that, and I think he's going to give some problems for that Cardinals defense. Temper writes, what's the biggest concern for the Seahawks the rest of the season? Well, I would point to the offensive line, and I would say this, okay? Think about this when it comes to the Seahawks offensive line. They have played a lot better. They're coming along, although they did have some moments against the Giants where Geno Smith was under pressure more than we would have liked to see. But they are so thin. If Charles Cross goes down, if Abraham Lucas goes down, one of those players, then the options are pretty narrow for what the Seahawks could do after that to replace one of those guys. So my big concern is the depth at the offensive line. It's good enough to hold serve right now, but I'm not so sure about how that group would do later on in the season if something were to happen to somebody. So that's my biggest concern. How excited are you for the rest of the season? I mean, the way the optimism has changed with this team in the fan base over the last few weeks, everyone's hyped. Everyone's excited. I want to know how excited you are for the way things have gone to this point. Let me know in the comments section below. And we're going to cover this team like no one else is on Seahawks Today. So you better subscribe so you never miss a moment. Raw writes in, what do you think about Bruce's performance in his ceiling for this year? Brucey was great. I mean, I think he was just even on the practice squad a couple weeks ago. And they brought him in as kind of like an experiment of some sort. It's like, okay, let's see if he's got something still left. And he did. And, I mean, he was next to nothing in price and got playing time right away. As far as the ceiling goes, look, he's still learning the defensive scheme under defensive coordinator Clint Hurts, still sort of getting in football shape of sorts too. I don't know if we've seen the best of Bruce at this point in time. I think there's still more that we can see out of him potentially. So I'm not going to say what his ceiling is, but I do think that he's got some more good football ahead of him as far as I'm concerned. As always, you need to subscribe to Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. We're going to have a watch party coming up on Sunday. You won't want to miss out on that. We do daily news and rumors segments throughout the week, and we also do our live show on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Be there, be square, be a real one, and subscribe to the channel now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV.